I've been getting a lot of compliments on my album art lately, so I thought that I'd pop on here and show you guys exactly what program I use to make pretty much all of it these days. It's super easy, really easy to get set up, super easy to use, and I figured I'd show you exactly how you can make album art just like these. So you're just going to want to pop into Google and look up Playground AI. And it'll be this first link here, free to use online AI image creator. And then you can click this Get Started button right in that first pop-up screen. It's going to have you set up with a Google account. Doesn't need to be your main Google account, but you just put in your details here and it'll get you all logged in. So once you get logged in, it's actually got a really helpful just sort of like walkthrough tutorial thing where it shows you what all of the different pieces of the interface do and all the ways you can use it. So I'm not going to get super bogged down in the details of that, and I'll just show you exactly what settings I'm using and what my prompts look like to get certain outcomes. First of all, I'm almost always working in a 1024 by 1024 pixel window. That's the maximum for the free version of Playground. I haven't found that's been an issue for any of my Spotify uploads. I think the quality is just fine. It's not blurry outputs or anything. But I'll show you how you can upscale that a little bit later if you did so choose. Quality and details, I usually leave around 50. As you get up higher, the image generation is a bit slower, but it also sort of introduces some weird artifacts. I'm feeling like 50 is like a nice sort of soft digital painting type look that really works for my style. I always randomize the seed values, and then down here is something pretty useful that you can mess around with multiple images off the same prompt. So let's give that a try. So here you can see my generation frame on the canvas. This is where you enter the prompt, and then these will be where the 4 images pop up. When it comes to actually prompt writing, I tend to always start with digital painting, lo-fi album art, just to tell it exactly what style I want it to be. And then I'll describe the scene that I have in my head, or maybe what I had in mind as I was making the track. For this, let's go with something really broad, like a beautiful landscape. So once you hit generate, you'll see a little progress indicator here. It should take a few seconds to, a minute, minute and a half, depending on your speeds and how busy the server are. So I'll let you know when this one's done. And just like that, we've got 4 what I think are actually really nice images. You can hit Control and use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. And then if you click and drag the scroll wheel, you can move around the canvas. So here we've got, nice lake with some mountains or some birds included. I love the color palette it shows. This one's a little bit darker, more nighttime sunset vibe. And it took just about a minute to get all 4 of these. Now let's say you wanted something a little bit more specific than a beautiful landscape. Let's say that you wanted a young man walking through a forest. And there you go. For some reason, Playground thinks the young man should definitely have a backpack walking through the forest. But again, these are all pretty good looking images. Nothing wrong, no sort of weird like classic AI anomalies. Even the feet get a little weird when you zoom in on some of them. Hands are a little odd in this one. But if you're looking at it in the perspective of what someone on Spotify would see, or even an Instagram post, it's very rarely going to be much bigger than this. I think the details are just fine in any one of these. But let's say you want something a little bit more fantastical and more specific. So let's say fantastical, mystical village under a foreboding castle. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Sometimes when you add too many details into it, like if you want, a castle and a hut and a girl dancing, and you tell it to add a whole bunch of things, it'll miss some or all of them and just pick one of the details. So that can be a little bit frustrating with the prompts. They are improving it all the time, so even since I started using it a few months ago, it's gotten a lot better. But that is something to watch out for. You're not going to be able to make exactly what's in your head, so I don't want to set the expectations too high there. I don't know if this is a foreboding castle, and there's definitely no mystical village, but these are still pretty cool potential album arts here. So yeah, I think you kind of get the gist. You go digital painting, lo-fi album art, you can get the style that I'm generally using for the most part. But I think another really cool feature here is that on the right side here, or no, on the left side, there's this filter option where you can use some sort of the preset filters to push the AI towards a certain style. So let's say, you know, based on this quick thing, we want an oil painting. So we'll get rid of the digital painting lo-fi album art because digital painting is essentially the filter that we're using with our prompt. And we want an oil painting of Luke Skywalker fighting a giant panda. So no Luke Skywalker, but we did get some oil paintings of giant pandas. But nonetheless, you can see that the filter at least applied the oil painting filter without me telling it to do an oil painting. But once again, sometimes the prompts aren't the best at delivering specificity. So quell your expectations to whatever level you need. But nonetheless, this is a pretty cool picture and a good reminder that this is not just limited to album art. You can basically make anything you can imagine with improved prompt writing skills, especially compared to mine. So one other thing I think is super useful is this feature, outpaintings. So if you overlay your generation frame over another image, you can actually outpaint it. So let's put our prompt back to full landscape. I like it about halfway over because it takes in the information from the picture that already exists a little bit better. But you click outpaint, and it will expand the selection to fill the rest of the empty generation frame based on the image that you already have. Here you go, you've got the scene expanded out now. We can do it to the other side to make it symmetrical. This is a problem I bump into a bit too, is that sometimes the outpainting gets a bit blurry and doesn't continue into the main image quite as well. But we probably have about as much as we would need for, say, a YouTube thumbnail. So, hey, I literally just stopped recording, so I'm probably gonna edit this in at some point in the video, but there's a couple of key things I forgot to mention before I sign off. One thing is that the free version, I think, is limited to 1,000 pictures per day. So if you're gonna be doing some crazy high throughput stuff, I guess bear in mind that you will have an upper limit. But if you're just making album art or thumbnails or Instagram posts or reels, whatever, I don't think that's going to be a huge issue for most people. And the other thing is on the topic of ownership. That's a big question, especially if you're trying to use this as art for a release. So a big draw for Playground for me is that they give you ownership of everything that you create. So you don't have to worry about any copyright issues, you know, so long as the AI isn't heavily inspired by something that already exists that's copywritten. But yeah, those are just a couple things that I forgot to mention in the previous version. And now back to that me that forgot what this me says. The final detail I think that's worth covering in this is if ever you did think that you need larger than the 1024 by 1024 pixel resolution, you can right click on any generated image and upscale by 4. You click place on canvas, and just like that, you got 4 times the size of an image. I think one thing worth pointing out though with this upscaled image is it tends to lose a little bit of the softness that it had in the original. So you can see in here, the edges are all pretty soft. You know, the birds look painted in. The edges on the rocks aren't too harsh. And then we look at the upscaled image. The birds get a little bit sharper, a little bit more harsh. The rock edges are a little bit more harsh. So it's definitely essentially like applying a sharpening filter to a lower resolution picture. It's just gonna kind of make things a bit more angular. If you did need higher resolution, this is definitely one way to do it. Or I think you can upgrade to a paid version and just generate larger images. But yeah, that's all for now. So I hope you guys enjoy Playground AI. I hope you're making awesome album art, and let me know in the comments what you guys want to see me talk about next. Peace.